Hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, and today is something I've never done before. Sorry, my cat is on the desk already, and I don't want him to accidentally press the button that'll stop recording. And, okay, today I'm going to be doing a quarterly life update wrap up. And I'm going to talk about my reading quarter, how that's gone, an overall quarterly, stitching quarterly, and then an overall general life quarterly. And I also am going to have a bit of a discussion about changes to my channel and the future of my channel. I will have chapters, timestamps down below if there's a particular section you're interested in or you're not interested in. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about books first. So in the first quarter of the year, January, February, and March, I read 22 books so far this year. And I'm going to lean over this way because I'm going to pop up stats over here. So that way, if you want to look at anything in more in depth, feel free to pause the video and read these stats as they pop up. But let's talk about January 1st. In general, just for fun, I read a total of 865 pages. I listened to a total of 16 hours. I do keep them separate. So hours is only audiobooks, pages is only physical books. Out of the 31 days in January, I read 18 days, which was 58% of the month. And I listened to an audiobook 9 days of the month, which ended up being 29% of the month. You can also see I have a breakdown of what genres I read with a particular focus on that in that month of horror. And then that bottom graph there is days per book, and I have that broken down how many days I spent reading each book. So as you can see, there are more than 5 books on that graph. So yes, I physically read more than the 5 books, but I only finished 5 books in January, so those are the only ones I counted for my stats. I only count information about a book once I have finished it. So, I did not finish Tom Lake or Little Thieves or Leave the World Behind. Yes, I did. In January. Yes, I did. The only 2 I did not finish on this is Tom Lake and Little Thieves. My lowest was I spent 1 day on Little Thieves, and my highest was 8 days on Inspection. Moving on. In February, I read a total of 9 books for 979 pages, and I spent 37.7 hours listening to audiobooks. Almost half of the days I spent reading physically, and only 34%, 10 out of the 29 days, I listened to an audiobook. I had a lot more genres in the month of February, as you can see, primarily still horror, but surprisingly 2 nonfictions, although one of those was a DNF. Same thing, days per book. My highest was 6 days on Ironside, and then it looks like I actually have 4 tied for I spent 1 page on, which is honestly impressive to me. You've Lost a Lot of Blood, We Are Also Good at Smiling, Stamped from the Beginning, and Womb. One of those, Stamped from the Beginnings, was a DNF. The other 3 were short books. You've Lost a Lot of Blood and Womb were short horror novellas that were both 130 pages or less or so around that. And We're Also Good at Smiling was a YA novel in verse. And I listened to it, and it was only 4 hours, so I listened to it in 1 day. And then finally, in March, I read a total of 8 books in March with a jump up, which I love seeing, a total of 1,140 pages and 37.9 hours. So even though I still listened to roughly the same amount, my reading physically jumped, which is so interesting to me. I read almost every single day in March, physically, which is fantastic. I had kind of started being I should read every day in March, and I almost made it, and then one of the days was my friend's birthday, and we went out and did karaoke, and I didn't read that day, and instead of feeling bad, I was like, you know what, it's fine, because I went out that day and did karaoke with a really good friend, and it was worth it. So 97% of the days I read a physical book, which is awesome. Almost half of the days I listened to something, 42% or 13 out of 31 days. Super cool. If we look at my genres for March, we actually kind of mixed it up and I read more fantasy than anything. As you can see, I tend to read very broadly. If like there's one per category in this, and then even when I have more than like one book in a genre, it's typically two, like at most. I'm not like incredibly prolific. Reading 8 to 9 books in a month is great for me. That is not for everyone, and that's okay. So, I also kind of branched out. I had a romance on there. I had a historical. I really don't read romance. And then when we look at our days, the day counts are honestly really, really low, if you'll notice, except for Out There Screaming, which took me 19 days to read because it was an anthology of stories. It was 19 different short stories, and I read one story a day, so that way I could really engage with the text. So one per day, and then the rest I think we had, looks like The Angel Maker, I think I read in 1 or 2 days, and that was about it. So this large graphic that I'm about to put up on screen just kind of sums all of this up with a bunch more information. I will put it on here. If you can't read it, don't worry about it. I'm going to go over everything on this next graph because it is a big one. So this is just breaking it down even more because I am ridiculous. And that's what that top paragraph says. Hi, hello, I am a huge book nerd. I read a lot of books and I like to see my hobbies and pastimes quantified. So please enjoy this fun graphic of how my reading is going so far this year and numbers and pretty graphs because I am a nerd. I do want to point out, and it is what the very bottom says, I use 2 different spreadsheets to track my reading. So I use Cawpile to help me with my ratings, and then I use a different one to actually track titles and stuff like that. So the first one for ratings is Cawpile, which I've mentioned before. It's a method to help analyze different elements of a book to determine your star rating, and it was created by G. I do not want to try and pronounce her name because I will horribly get it wrong. But G from Book Roast, and you can find it there on her YouTube channel. Please check her out. She has a whole playlist. It is her baby. She created it. I just use it. The other one is the Ultimate Reading Tracker. It was created by Allison Klein and can be found on her Etsy page called With Allie. She also has a YouTube channel, and it is Hardback Hoarder. So her YouTube channel is Hardback Hoarder. Her Etsy store is called With Allie, and it is ALI. Definitely check them out. I love that spreadsheet. It is so in-depth. It is amazing. I use that to track all of my stuff, and she breaks it down on her channel as well. So definitely check them out if that is something you're interested in. So all the way back up at the top, this first section is how I read my books because I track this and I find it so interesting to me. 48% of the books I read in this first quarter were audiobooks. Almost half of every book I've read so far has been an audiobook. The next highest percentage at 40% are paperbacks. 40% of my books are paperbacks. That leaves the last 12%, which are hardcovers, books that have jackets on them or are just solid, okay? 0%. Absolutely none of the books I've read so far this year have been ebooks. And I blame that because of my tablet. I get distracted on my tablet. Even when I am in Kindle, I will flip to other things. I'll get on games, I'll get on YouTube. It's a problem. Moving on. Then this next chart is intended audience. So this is who were these books like written for, or like what is that age category, right? So orange it's a YA book. That light purple lavender color is new adult. And then that green color is adult, which surprised me because I used to read predominantly YA and that was pretty much it. So the fact that now the majority of my reads are like adult is so interesting to me. 68% of the books I've read so far this year have been intended for adults. only 8% were new adult, and as you can see, all of those were in March, and 24% have been considered YA. And so far this year, I've read 0 middle grade or children's books. I do have some. I would like to read some. I just haven't yet. Then down here, I've got two kind of graphs in one at the very bottom. On the left is author distribution, and on the right, hey, there's Washington. On the right is star ratings. So author distribution, this is a stacked graph, and what this is showing is what the gender of authors I typically read. Who do I go for? So in this instance, orange is January, purple is February, and green is March. And it breaks it down how I read them and their totals across the board, if that makes sense. So like, I read a total of 11 female authors, 2 in the month of January, 5 in the month of February, 4 in the month of March. So female. And then compared to males, I've read one more female author than I have male authors. I've read a total of 10. 10 of 10 of the books I read were written by men, with 3 being in January, 4 being in February, and 3 being in March. I have read 0 non-binary authors, and I would like to note, if an author is trans, I use the pronouns that they want to be used. So if they identify as a trans woman, I put them in as a woman. I put them in as female. If they're a trans man and they identify as a man, I put them in as a trans man. Like, that's where they go in my graph. If they identify as non-binary, that's where they would go. So far, I have not actually read any authors that are non-binary or other, or use any other sort of gender markers. And then last but not least is multiple, meaning if the book has multiple authors. I have read one book that has multiple authors in the month of March, and that was that short story collection. The next graph next to that is my star ratings and how they break down. Over half of the books that I've read in this first quarter were 4 stars or 4.5. I keep them in that range. So 4 to 4.5. So over half, 55% of the books I've read, I've given a 4 or a 4.5. The next highest rating is 3 stars, with 30% of my reads being in the 3-star range. And then I have an equal distribution of 1 stars, 2 stars, and 5 stars, all at 5%. I love seeing this as well. My breakdown. My average rating for the quarter was 3.7. And then at the bottom here, this last little bit of text is just me saying what my longest and shortest physical books were and my longest and shortest audiobooks. My longest book has been The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune at 398 pages. The shortest book has been Womb by Duncan Ralston at 129 pages. My longest audiobook so far has been The Warm Hand of Ghosts by Catherine Arden at 11 hours and 38 minutes. And my shortest audiobook has been We Are All So Good at Smiling by Amber McBride at 3 hours and 45 minutes. So that has been my quarterly wrap up for books. Let's get into stitching. I do not have any fun, fancy charts for stitching. And the reason is I have not been able to stitch anything since January. And part of that gets into the life update, but I'm going to share it now because I think it is pertinent. I did stitch in January. I tried to stitch every single day. And I realized very quickly that I was comparing myself to other stitchers. I do still watch a lot of FlossTube. I am still part of various cross-stitching Facebook groups, and I still very much love the community and the hobby. Part of that, though, is I need to have a little bit of a separation between it being my personal hobby and the community. How am I supposed to do that when I run my own cross-stitch Facebook group? I'm still figuring that out. I love running Magical Stitches. I love reading the books and being creative and stretching my creative brain muscle to come up with tasks and prompts every month that fit the book that I selected for us all to read every month. I haven't been able to stitch though. Drink break. I had to take a break for a couple reasons. One, I was burning myself out because I was constantly comparing what I perceived as a lack of progress or a lack of stitches because I was watching other people make videos and post pictures constantly about how much stitching they were done, and I was hurting myself because I was comparing myself to their progress, and you shouldn't do that at all. Obviously, we should never compare our progress with someone else's because we all do things differently. We are all on a different journey, right? And so I did kind of lose my stitchy bug. But at the same time, I didn't lose my stitchy bug. There's been another issue that has come up that I have also been struggling to come to terms with. And that is that I have some sort of hand or wrist injury that prevents me from being physically able to stitch. I am suddenly getting really emotional talking about this, and I wasn't prepared to feel emotional. You might have seen in some of my other videos that sometimes I wear a brace on this hand, and that is because there is something going on and we don't know what it is. We thought possibly it could be carpal tunnel related, but I am not right-handed. I am left-hand dominant, so it seems weird if it would be carpal tunnel, why it would be in my right hand when this is not my dominant hand. We're not sure if it's related to a previous injury. I broke this wrist in high school. Right in this joint, I broke my wrist. I broke it right in the snuff box. I've talked about this before. And then 2 years ago now, I sprained that same joint. I sprained my thumb joint, and in a really weird freak accident kind of way that it probably shouldn't have happened. So we don't know. Is it carpal tunnel, or is it related to that old fracture or this recent sprain? Why is this happening? But I've been dealing with a myriad of symptoms with this hand, and it sucks. I've been dealing with pain, numbness at times, which all seem like carpal tunnel, but at other times it doesn't feel like it because it doesn't seem like it's in the right spot. I don't have pain in my wrist, I have pain in my thumb. This area of my thumb will hurt really bad. It will sometimes look bruised or swollen. It just aches. If I use it too much, it hurts really bad, and it's just annoying. Sometimes I will get an achy burning sensation all the way down my arms, indicating that there's some sort of nerve issue, and it creaks when I move it. I can't put pressure, I can't bend it like this and push against something. That hurts. My husband will rub it sometimes, and he tells me he can feel knots. Sorry if this is making anyone uncomfortable, but I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. And if you have had experience with any of these things, let me know because I don't know what's going on, and it's been months now. And I was supposed to have a doctor's appointment, and unfortunately, that appointment is not happening now until August because my doctor is on maternity leave. So yay, baby, but oh, cool. So unfortunately, stitching has been kind of put aside, and it hurts because I still have all of my stitchy corner set up. I still have my stitchy cart right here. It is still something that I find myself wanting to do, but I physically can't. And I was not expecting to get emotional. But it has been really hard to not be able to do something that I find satisfaction in, that I find joy in, comfort and contentment. It is something that I would do in the evenings, sitting next to my husband, and it has been really difficult. I had ideas that I wanted to do. There are projects that I wanted to stitch. There are things that I wanted to make for family members, for my nieces, and I am scared that I won't be able to finish those things, and that really sucks. That's why there hasn't been any stitching content, which I guess kind of naturally leads into life stuff, what has been going on. It does not feel real to me that the first 3 months of the year are over. It really doesn't. January was cold, and my husband was gone for a week on a business trip, and while he was gone, I had to hold down the fort. I had to hold down the house by myself, which is normally fine. It's always hard though. I don't sleep well anyways, but I sleep even worse when my husband is gone, so I was dealing with that. Caden in general we're getting ready to go into puberty, and hormones are changing, attitude is changing, he is changing, right? I don't want to say too much because obviously I value his privacy, and as he grows older, he doesn't need me sharing his business, but just suffice to say that he is growing up, and we have been faced with a set of new challenges relating directly to his attitude and his changing perspective, and it has been really hard. There are things sometimes that Caden and I are very similar about, and there are things that Caden and I are very different about, and so we butt heads a lot, and it is hard. It is very hard because I am supposed to be the adult who is logical and rational and knows how to deal with their emotions, but it is very hard when you have an 11-year-old who is very emotional and is feeling a lot of feelings and is coming at you with those feelings. It is not always easy, but I am trying my best. I feel like I'm going a little insane, but I'm doing my best. Also during January and that work trip, my husband was given an award, which is super exciting, at his job, and part of his reward is that we get to go on a vacation that his company pays for this summer, just he and I. And I am excited because I can finally kind of talk about it. They are putting us on a cruise this summer in June. We will be going to Alaska. We get to go on an Alaskan cruise in the middle of June, and I am pumped. I'm very excited to do this, and we should be getting our cruise details very, very soon, but we had to get all of that stuff ready. We had to update my passport because one of the stops will be in British Columbia, Canada. So there is a lot that had to be done in that little bit. We had to make sure paperwork was filled out, passport stuff taken care of. Super exciting though. February, I had my birthday. I turned 30 this year. Super exciting, super cool. I did not want a dirty 30. I didn't want a death to my 20s. That's not who I am. That's not what I wanted. I asked for a nerdy 30, and I asked Brian to set that up for me, and he invited our friends to come over in their pajamas, and we hung out and ate pizza and played board games, and it was amazing, and it was exactly what I wanted. And then my husband's birthday is also in February, and it is super exciting. He is not as excited about birthdays as I am, but that's okay. We hung out. His family came to visit. My in-laws came, and we went to dinner and had a great time. We had a great week. We hung out. Unfortunately, during that time as well, Caden got really sick, scary sick, and had a super high fever for almost a week. It was not COVID, but we didn't know what it was, and he couldn't go to school, so he had to stay home, and it was really scary. And then my husband got sick within days. of Caden being sick. And they both had high fevers and were like super lethargic, didn't want to eat, didn't want to do anything. And they were also having like fever dreams at night where they were like sleepwalking. And that was scary. Caden was sick for like 3 days, and then Bryant got sick, and they both were sick together for like 2 or 3 days. And so like everything got put like on hold. I did not get sick, which is great, but it definitely put like a big damper on things where I was like, oh crap, I have to deal with this. Then we had leap year. Nothing really exciting happened on leap year. Then in March, we had Caden's spring break, and he went back to our hometown and hung out with my in-laws and got to hang out with them all week. While they were there, I celebrated one of my best friend's birthday here. I talk about her all the time. She's a person who runs the Macabre Librarian. We celebrated her birthday, and we went out and did karaoke, and it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I've gone out. I wish I had more footage. I think I want to try and capture some of that footage for things for myself, but also just for fun. And what else have we done? I don't know. B and I were trying to go on more dates and hanging out with each other and just spending quality time with each other. I think that's been really important to me. Yeah. So that's been like quarterly life updates. Lots of fun stuff. Couple kind of sucky things, but for the most part fun. And so last but not least, let's talk about the future of this channel. So in my last couple videos, including this one, you'll notice that when I say, hi, welcome to my channel, I used to normally say, welcome back to Snark and Spark. My name is Emily. And today, blah, blah, blah. I haven't been doing that. And that is because I want to change the name of my channel. Nothing crazy, nothing extreme. I've kind of bounced this area around a lot with my husband and just kind of in my head to get an idea of what I was wanting, what I was thinking. And I just want to change it because I don't feel as if Snark and Spark really fits what I'm doing or what I want to do. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't feel that it really encapsulates what I want anymore. I also learned in the course of like being on YouTube that snark is typically associated with like drama channels. Like there are snark subreddits, and it's typically around, like I said, it has to do with drama where you go there to like hypothesize or possibly even bash or badmouth like celebrities or YouTube figures or anything like that. And I don't want to be associated with that kind of content because it's not what I make. And there's nothing wrong with like that if that's what your bread and butter is, or if that's what you enjoy watching or making. But that's just not what I do here. So I don't want to have a channel that could potentially bring people in thinking I'm going to be covering drama, because I don't. So what am I doing instead? My new name that will roll out once this video goes live is going to be Emily A to Z, because I feel that encompasses more of what I'm trying to do here. My name is Emily, and I do a little bit of everything. I do a little bit of this, I do a little bit of that. I'm interested in a bunch of stuff. I cross stitch and I read, and lately, because it's not so hard on my hands when I feel okay with it, I've been building Legos. I have a bunch of Lego sets. I love Legos. And I've been building them, and I want to be able to show those off sometimes too. Like I did this, and I do puzzles, and I'm interested in painting, and I go outside. Like I do a bunch of stuff, and I just feel like changing it so I can talk about that kind of stuff will give me a little bit more freedom. I don't want to be stuck in a specific niche. I don't want to just be stuck in booktube or flosstube. I just want to be me, and I like the idea of having like a set concept of being Emily A to Z. There's a little bit of it all here. So I hope you can accept that. And I hope you'll continue to support me. And it feels right for this move. That being said, some of the other things that I want to do is I still want to make the content I'm making. I'm still going to make my TBRs and my wrap-ups, and that won't change. I am going to try and stitch a little bit more. I want to show off what I can stitch, but it is obviously going to be very small progress. It's not going to be huge progress, because I think at this point, and from what I have talked with my doctor about, I could probably get by doing about 30 minutes a day. Maybe not every day, but a couple times a week. So I want to slowly kind of try and do that again, just so I don't lose a lot of flexibility or mobility in my hand for the time being, and I can still try and do stuff. And when I do stitch, obviously I want to capture that. I want to get back to doing some of my like overhead, like cross stitch with me, cross stitch in a classic kind of thing, where when I was stitching those small little diagrams, I was telling you the history of it and telling you like a short story. I want to do that again. I miss that content, and I know several of you really liked that content, and I enjoyed making it, so I want to do it. But this last week prompted a lot of ideas for me, and I don't want them to go wasted. I want to use them, and that was when I did my library week video, where I kind of set this arbitrary challenge for myself and tried to do something every single day and filmed a little clip every single day. I know that video was long, so I don't blame you if you don't watch the whole thing. Ideally, I would get better at trimming things down, not making them as long. But I think starting off once a month, so outside of my TBR, outside of my wrap-ups or whatever, I want to have like a middle of the month video that is a like challenge video or something different than the norm. I really liked doing my library week thing, but I think I also kind of want to do like when banned book week comes up and like do something that week, like read banned books. I've seen it done a couple times, and I kind of want to do it myself, where I read the first chapter of several of the books on my bookshelves upstairs that I haven't read yet, and like prioritize them based off of how intrigued I am by the first chapter. I want to swap my screen time for reading time and go from there, right? And just do fun little things every month. And I hope you will all continue to be here on this journey. Thanks. So this will be the last video that has the Snark and Spark opening on it. And yeah, from now on, I'll be Emily A to Z. And I like how that sounds. And I hope you come along with me. If you are still here, thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope to continue seeing you in the future. So, happy doing whatever it is that makes you happy doing. Be easy with your hearts.